Hey, good afternoon, friends. Today, my friends, is Thursday, June the 11th, 2026, and the time now is 2:16 p.m. So, friends, I want to talk about the world. I want to talk about the United States, Mexico, Canada. I want to talk about Africa. And friends, I want to talk specifically about the World Cup 2026, which as of now, as of the next 44 minutes, it is going to be officially a thing. As much as many had been propagating that the World Cup as of now in various cities, especially in the United States, is a no event. In terms of the World Cup happening, within the next, let's say, 43, 46 minutes, 43 to 44 or 46 minutes, the World Cup is going to be officially a thing. Now, friends, it is very interesting that this World Cup is being projected, portrayed, or talked about to be the most anticipated World Cup in history. It has included more than 10 new teams or countries. If I cannot mess it up, if I do remember correctly, past World Cup has been at least 32 teams, which that was never the case. In fact, in the past decades, Africa and Asia basically fought for one spot, and Africans and others basically protested. Europe, despite the fact that Europe has about 28 countries or so, Europe has had the most spots. But this year, Africa alone has about 10 countries representing Africa in the World Cup. In fact, it was an issue for Italy. And in the past year and months or so, one Italian coach basically complained that Africa has too many teams in the World Cup, which is just, it's messed up. It's foolish. The fact that Europeans or many in Europe believe that Europe should have an equal number of representative countries in the World Cup, even though Europe has at least about, let's say, 20 teams, about 24 or 26 teams less, or 24 countries less. Europe has about 24 countries less than Africa. Still, many Europeans believe that Africa and Europe, okay, should have the same amount of countries, or that Europe should have more countries in the World Cup than Africa. But many Africans basically throw a fit, like we are not going to accept that or let you disrespect us. Now, in terms of Africa, there has been lots of divide on the continent, especially given the previous AFCON in Morocco, where many Africans, and I also do believe that Senegal was mistreated and other African countries were mistreated, especially in Morocco and the way Morocco acted. However, in terms of the grand scheme of things, it is very interesting that this year, in terms of the Afghan final, which ended, Morocco did a very good job. Morocco did a very good job. Yes, the Afghan event was a good event. Africans celebrated one another, with the exception of the closer to the finals. A lot of things are happening. But given what is happening in the world now in terms of the World Cup, it is a very interesting thing where we are seeing lots of racism, okay, being played in broad daylight. Now, we know that when Donald Trump took over, he declared war against over 180 countries around the world, basically. And I'm talking in this case about his economic warfare slash his trade war. He lost the war with the trade war with China, or against China. On the 28th of February this year, 2026, Donald Trump's United States and Israel attack Iran, and the war has been going on. And about all of America's military bases in the Middle East, they've been destroyed, completely gutted. And in fact, just within the past 24 hours, there has been escalation. Even though they've been talking peace, Israel attacked Lebanon, and Iran retaliated against Israel with the whole idea that the peace talk must include Lebanon as well. And I came across something within the past hour that the United States had attacked Iran again. So it is very interesting. Now, in terms of the World Cup, the racism and the stupidity that is going on in the United States is too much. Looking at World Cup events in the past, countries go to a length to try to welcome the guests from all over the world and also to celebrate the fact that they are hosting this world event, international event. It has not been the case in the United States. You only hear people of color, minority groups, black Africans, African Americans, Mexicans, or people from Latin America talking about it. Many white Americans are not talking about it. But the American populace as a whole are not talking about, or is not talking about the World Cup. There isn't banner out there. In fact, I've never even seen a World Cup advertisement. It is just weird. It is as if a major international event is not coming to the United States, which is supposed to host, I think, the majority of the games. I think about 40 some more games, 40 something games. So, friends, this is ridiculous. Countries have been arriving in the United States. Yes, we are going to be seeing starting at 3 p.m., 3 o'clock p.m. today, the first game, the opening ceremony slash game between Mexico, one of the three hosts, and South Africa. So in this case, World Cup 2026 is being hosted by three countries: Mexico, Canada, and the United States, which is supposed to host the majority of the games. Couple of shit the United States have been doing. One is that the United States basically refused entry of the national team of Iran and basically declared that Iran will not be stationed in the United States, even though Iran's supposed to be stationed in California. So Mexico agreed to host the Iranian national team. And the Iranian national team is in Mexico right now, and they were gratefully, impressively received. And looking at those escort, there are soldiers, men, armed soldiers guarding the Iranian national team's bus. So Mexico is going to be hosting Iran. However, the United States then came with something else, which is that Iran will not be allowed to stay in the United States. In this case, Iran can fly into the United States for its match. After the game, they have to pack up and leave immediately, head back to Mexico, which is just brutal stupidity, irresponsibility, foolishness. This is racism by an epic proportion. Donald Trump is humiliating the United States, and he is destroying the level of charisma, the level of prestige that the United States had managed to cultivate it for the past few decades now. Now, countries are they're arriving into the United States, but the reception are different. One African country, I think it's Senegal, if I can remember, Senegalese national team arrived. They basically had them at the tarmac as they searched these guys as if they were terrorists or they were going to the security checkpoint of the airport. These guys are the national teams of various countries. You have agreed to host the World Cup. The reception must be special. Once again, friends, the national team of Senegal was treated less. They were treated like criminals. National and or professional competition, sport athletes and teams in the United States are often treated much better with a tight but respectful security details than the national team of Senegal was treated. Another country, Uzbekistan, and it is said that this is their first ever World Cup. The way they were treated, similar to how Senegal was treated, their luggages were set aside on the ground, and these guys were searched as if these guys were common criminals. And it is bad. They were supposed to receive a special dignified entry into the United States. These guys were basically international diplomat representing their country in a very prestigious international event, and the United States basically blew it up. However, friends, one interesting thing about this whole thing is that when you scale back, you go back into time in terms of industrialization. The United States and the West, and most especially the United States, was the most industrialized. They have the biggest and tallest cities in terms of the scale of their cities, in terms of land masses, and also in terms of the height of their cities, in terms of the height of the buildings. Countries are being industrialized rapidly, and Asia is leading industrialization of the world. The cities in Asia are much more better. They are much more beautiful, and the buildings. It is as if these engineers who are designing these buildings hate one another and they want to outdo each other. We are seeing China, the infrastructure in China, which we have to be honest, is way better and way sophisticated than the United States. At the time when even these guys coming from around the world are beginning to love their countries, they're having national and individual self-esteem growth. The United States, at a time where it is economically being in trouble, I think it is not the time for the United States to disrespect the world. It is the time for the United States to be humble. But what the United States is showing, honestly, I think it is not strength, it is not power or prestige, it is weakness. It is a collapse. And I've said this many times. The United States has long collapsed. What we are witnessing is basically the fallout. Perhaps the final day of collapse of the United States could be another 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, or even another 100 or even 300 years. However, the United States that we are seeing under Donald Trump, I think, for a long time, could be the United States that we will have to deal with as an international community, a global community. Because American politics is so pungent that anybody who tried to make the changes that America needs will be looked down upon within the Congress and in the governmental sphere, and in terms of the divide, will be looked at as someone who is an anti-American or who want to go against the status quo. For example, Nicolas Maduro of Venezuela, who Donald Trump kidnapped earlier this year. If Donald Trump and the Republican lose the next presidential election, I don't see a Democratic president coming into power releasing Maduro. Because one, that is going to be an accept of defeat and an accept of crime that the United States had committed, but also the political atmosphere, the political narrative that will be surrounding the whole idea of American accepting defeat and accepting the fact that it engaged in an illegal activity, kidnapping a foreign leader, I think would be so bad that the safest bet would be for that president, even a Democratic president, to not even give a damn or even bring the issue of Maduro into the forefront. Or they would do whatever to speed up the trial of Maduro, define him guilty, convict him, and have him basically rot in jail. I think that is the case. But also the America that we are seeing, I believe could be the America that we will have to deal with in the international community for a long time. And this America will become worse. Now, the United States basically mistreated the national team of Iran. The United States disrespect Senegal's national team and Uzbekistan's national team and other teams that are arriving in the United States, even Iraq. The one striker on the national team of Iraq was said to have been investigated or basically arrested and interrogated for over 9 hours. However, friends, the most interesting but heartbreaking story that basically came out of the World Cup event so far was or is the refusal of entry of Africa's top referee. This guy was born in Somalia. He is a Somalian. He is the top referee on the continent of Africa. Now, this guy came to the United States where he was one of the chosen one that FIFA chose. I believe there were over 50 or so officials or referee chosen by FIFA to officiate the World Cup. The United States refused his entry into the United States and he left. He went to Turkey and now he went to Somalia, returned to Somalia, where he was basically received with pride and dignity by the people of Somalia. So far, Africans all over the continent, throughout the continents and around the world, in the United States are pissed. Now, friends, recently we've been seeing a lot of infighting within global Africa or continental Africa. We are seeing some vigilante group, a very tiny minority group in South Africa attacking Somalians, Ethiopians, Nigerians, Ghanaians, and other Africans, migrants in South Africa. Now, any family will fight. There'll be infighting, and there are infighting in every family. In Europe, they have infighting, which was so bad that they brought the entire world into two world wars. We could be seeing that returning, and we are seeing that happening right now in Ukraine. In Africa, we are beating each other, we are cursing at each other, we are fighting each other. As much as it is bad, it is breaking our heart, we will always stand up to talk for one another. Perhaps the problem in Africa is we have a leadership that basically have no balls. They are not brave or strong enough to stand up for Africa, but the people are speaking. Global Africa is speaking with outrage on the fact that the top referee on the African continent is Somalian, who FIFA chose to officiate the World Cup, who had been vetted. Even the Somalian embassy had put up an appeal for him. Donald Trump, who had been going against Somalians in Minnesota and disrespecting Africa and Somalia, the nation, Donald Trump refused him entry. That is not only a disrespectful act toward this young man, who is very young, and he look and he appear young. However, this is a disrespect to Somalians, to Somalia, to Africa, to Africans, continental and the global African diaspora. And many Africans are outraged about this nonsense. Donald Trump, as I've said earlier, is disrespecting the United States, humiliating the United States. He is undoing the many decades of prestige, pride that the United States has cultivated over the past few decades. Donald Trump is undoing it in just 1 to 2 years. However, friends, for this World Cup, it is very interesting. I remember when I gave a talk recently, one of my videos, I mentioned the African statue. The Congolese men who during the AFCON event stood up during each game that he attended for 90 minutes in honor of Patrice Lumumba. I found out recently that he was given a diplomatic passport to represent the DRC Congo, which in this case, it is also a representation of Africa. In that talk, that video that I shot, I stated that the right thing that Africa and the DRC Congo should do is to give him a diplomatic passport so he can attend the game or games, the World Cup games in the United States, Canada, and Mexico, where he should not only attend Congo's game, DRC Congo's game, but all the African countries' games, doing the same thing, standing for 90 minutes with his hands up, representing and honoring Patrice Lumumba. That, I believe, will be a global, a continental fuck you to Donald Trump by Africans. And I'm glad that he's going to be attending the World Cup. So, friends, that's it. I am going to stop here. Please tell me what you think, and I really want to know what you think. However, friends, once again, I am going to stop here. I want to thank you for being a member of the Echoing Voice community, my friends. But most especially and most importantly, or most important, my friends, I want to thank you a lot for watching the Echoing Voice. Peace, my friends. Peace.